equitable access to a healthy urban forest is pretty important. As we go through these slides, it's going to be brief. Obviously, you can expand on all of these things and have lengthy conversations, but just for sake of time, we won't do that. And I encourage you guys to try to go out and visit some of these websites or anything I refer to in here. But as we discuss equitable access to a healthy urban forest, there are a few things and questions that we need to ponder very quickly. But we'll talk about the healthy urban, what is a healthy urban forest and how it benefits the community. We'll touch base or touch a little bit on what it looks like across the country, what the data is showing as far as whether there is equitable access to a healthy canopy or urban forest. We'll see how Fayetteville's doing when it comes to that, according to the metrics that they use to measure that. And finally, we'll talk about the role that the UFAB, us as UFAB members, have in assuring that all citizens of Fayetteville have the same opportunities to access that healthy canopy and those benefits as well. Obviously, I'm speaking to the choir here, but urban forests are not only trees. I mean, we're also talking about the vegetation, soil, ecosystem that's associated with those trees. This includes green spaces, parkland, street trees, landscaping, gardens, you know, those types of things, nature preserves, wetlands, all of it part of our green infrastructure. A healthy urban forest will also include a diversity of tree species, as well as the forest structure itself is diverse. Very important part of a healthy urban forest. It's going to be on private and public land. I think data shows that it's important to have collaboration between public and private landowners for it to be a healthy urban forest. And then the management goals of that urban forest, for it to be healthy, they need to be the tree health, and then also the services that those trees and that urban forest provide to the ecosystem and to the community should be prioritized as well. The dynamic ecosystem of a healthy urban forest, they provide many benefits, all of which are becoming more and more critical as urban populations increase across the country. Obviously, provide energy conservation through shade and the easing of the heat island effect that urban areas create. Habitat for critters running around our city. They filter the air, the water. They help control stormwater runoff. The well-being of community is improved by a healthy urban forest, whether that's through the noise reduction that we get from trees and landscaped areas, the recreation opportunities they provide, as well as the beauty that we get to enjoy with trees and urban forest areas. As far as economic impact, you know, Fayetteville is probably one of the biggest examples that we can have, at least in the state of Arkansas, of how a healthy tree canopy can provide economic value. Property values is what I'm specifically referring to. You know, what can't be ignored is the impact that it has on the person's decision to live in Fayetteville. I can tell you guys, I moved here about 5 years ago, and as we're looking in Northwest Arkansas for a place to live, it is obvious that trees and a healthy canopy are important to the city of Fayetteville, and that was a huge factor in our decision making where we want to live. You can drill it down specifically to just the neighborhood, but you can also look at the entire city as well. It was something that was very important to us, and I can imagine it's very important to other folks as they look for places to live in Northwest Arkansas, and there's plenty of great options up here. So as looking at kind of, again, this is very quick, so we can go into a lot of depth and some other things in these things, but looking at how we measure equitable access to trees and to urban forest. An organization, American Forest, back in 2020, they rolled out a study called the Tree Equity Score. It's a metric that helps cities assess how well they're assuring equitable access to a healthy urban forest or tree canopy for their residents, and also to help them get an idea of what it's going to take to meet their goal of equitable access to a tree canopy. Again, it's super in depth, all the metrics and everything. I would encourage folks to go out to the treeequityscore.org, especially for you data nerds. I think you'll really enjoy how what their metrics were, how they collected it, where they got a lot of their data, as far as census stuff goes. I'd really encourage you guys to go look out there. But it's basically what it is. It's the combining of the tree canopy cover needs with the priority for trees in each neighborhood. And the neighborhoods they designated, what they called them was the census blocks. The census block groups is how what they refer to as their neighborhoods. In the end, what they did is they calculated a tree equity score for each census block group, but then they aggregated those scores for each municipality. So you can go back and look. This graphic here specifically talks about canopy coverage right here. And as you can see by this graphic, you can see there's a huge gap in equity between people of color and those that live below the poverty line. You're looking at a 33-point swing as far as canopy coverage for people of color, and then 41 for those that live below the poverty line. I should have mentioned this too at the beginning, but the study includes about 150,000 neighborhoods across the country, 480-ish municipalities. They measured those that had at least 50,000 people living in the city or the small surrounding town. So basically in the metro urbanized area is what they looked at. Here is a screenshot of Fayetteville's tree equity score. As far as, how they're doing, tree equity score of 80, obviously we always want to go, shoot for 100%, but so I'd say a tree equity score of 80 is pretty good. I lost my place a little bit, so I apologize. Fayetteville they counted 47 census block groups that were measured. With the tree equity score of 80, it seems like it's pretty good. It seems like we're doing things right. But as you can see by this graphic here on the right, that bar chart, once you get down into the neighborhoods where it's a majority of people live there who are living below the poverty line, you can see that there's definitely a disparity between canopy coverage compared to those other neighborhoods that don't have a majority of people of color. Let's see. And then I'll show you this other slide here. This is okay, well, it's the people. This is the one where it shows the percentage of people in poverty, and you can see the bar graph, how it goes below the mean average once you get in the majority of people of poverty, and the same for neighborhoods with with majority of people of color. The bar graph starts to drop below the mean average canopy coverage. So we're doing a good job. We have a tree score of 80, but it's obvious that we still have a lot of work to do. Finishing up, so what is our role as a UFAB member? What can we do to assure that we're trying to fix this and try to get equitable access to this healthy urban forest for everybody in our community? Before I talk about that, I do want to just touch base on one thing, and this is based on my experience in Parks and Recs, and I've worked either for or in advisement of many advisory boards or commissions. I do want to say that it's really important that we all are familiar and understand our role and our parameters that we're allowed to operate in as a board. And I'm not saying that there is a problem at all here. I mean, but I've seen boards get in trouble when they start operating outside of what their legal allowances are. So it's really important that we get familiar with those things that we're charged to do, legally what we can do and what's expected of us, and go from there. So what is our role in assuring equitable access to healthy urban forests for everyone in Fayetteville? Ordinance 5426 clearly states everything that we're responsible for. But ultimately our job is to advise and assist both elected officials and city staff to number one, preserve and protect trees during development. And we do that through, it's clearly stated in the code, or in the ordinance, excuse me, that we review and recommend improvements to the Unified Development Code. That's done, every 3 years, 2-3 years. John, we review that. We need to help and assist manage the urban forest in a responsible and proactive manner. We do that through advisement of tree plantings, help John and his staff with tree escrow expenditures, try to advise on that, any special projects, all of this while keeping equitable access to that urban forest in mind. It's hugely important. And then most of all, we need to educate the public on the importance and benefits of a healthy urban forest. We do this through various activities. You know, we've got the tree giveaway and the recognitions that we do. John Scott and his group do a good job of putting together educational materials. It's not a bad idea for us to help distribute those things. But most of all, we need to be passionate advocates for the cause of maintaining and providing a healthy urban forest for our folks. Don't ever be afraid to sit down and talk about it to anybody that you can, as far as the citizens of Fayetteville and the people that we serve. But that was all I had. I appreciate y'all's attention, but I would really like to hear y'all's feedback as far as this subject when it comes to access for everybody to a healthy tree canopy. I'm really curious what your thoughts are.
That was really good. Thank you so much. I'd like to hear maybe some ideas on how we do that. You know, what can we do to improve our equity? I know John just got done with some tree planting projects over by Beard Funeral Home over in that area along the streetways. And so did you have anything in mind, like off the top of your head, John, of how we can steer things that direction?
You asking John Crow or John?
John Crow, sorry, two Johns. Like anything you're thinking about?
Still trying. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I am encouraged to hear in speaking with John Scott is that this is a priority in the urban forestry department's plan. They've and John, I should have referenced it, but John sent me a presentation that somebody from our planning division, I think John had put together, that kind of showed specifically the areas of the city that are needing to be caught up as far as the urban forest area. That it seems like, from everything I've seen, that is kept in the forefront when looking at tree planting projects or tree escrow expenditures, things like that. So that's really helpful. So keeping all that in mind as we continue to study the tree canopy in the city and is important. And I'm encouraged by the work that the urban forestry department and the Parks and Rec department is doing.